you know when you open a miniature and inside the miniature pieces are all connected to this weird plastic thing? Well, I'm going to tell you today what you can do with that and make some really cool gravestones and signs. So with my goblin set that I got, I had these little crosses and things. I was thinking, well, I could do something with this. So I'm going to turn these into fully painted. One of these is going to be gravestone, and one of them is going to be a little sign. We're going to see how it turns out. So here's what I started off. I super glued them onto some pennies and some, I think that's a nickel or a dime. So I started to cut out the design, and after a while, I learned it was a lot harder to do it on cardboard than I thought. The material I worked with was XPS styrofoam, which is you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that for really cheap. It's really great to work with, and I definitely recommend it. So as I switched to styrofoam, I began to draw out the little shape, and I used a little pen so I can create a good engraving in it. And then I super glued it on. I created little engravings in it to add some texture. So I'm beginning the gluing process now. Be sure not to use too much. What I did is I used a pen actually. I'll actually do the top of the cap to spread it around so there's not a lot. And this is what it looks like right now. Now here's the gravestone. So for the ground, I cut up some really small pieces of styrofoam, like really small. I try to get it as small as possible without going dangerously small. Now the reason I did this is I wanted a rocky surface. You didn't need much. So then I create a thin layer of super glue or Gorilla Glue onto the penny. So I began to place them on. So this is what we finished today. So we just did some more layering and I put the wood on the sign. Now I really should have done more texturing before I started, but you know, who cares? This is my first project and I'm learning just as much as you are. So right now it looks pretty bland, so we're gonna paint it up. But first we've got to do a black primer. Any form of black paint should work for this. Use Mod Podge with it to protect it. Don't forget that while you're doing the paint, be sure to be careful where you put your fingers. You don't want to accidentally leave fingerprints that will come out when you do another layer of paint. We're going to do the same thing with the gravestone right here. Black primer with black paint with Mod Podge, and we'll provide a protective layer and a good start to do some painting on a good firm surface. Here's what they look like after you're done painting. You should have every single surface painted. I forgot a little bit right there. Here's what it looks like to scale, and it's pretty accurate, and I'm pretty happy with how these are turning out. After letting these dry, I'm going to do a base coat of Harvest Brown, and for the ground, I'm going to be using Mountain Stone to provide some first layer of texture. So here is what they look like after doing the first layer of paint. We're going to go back and add some more texturing and some more shading later on. Before I do the wash, I wanted to add some more coloring to it to really give it more of a flair, more spice to it. So I added some color to the signs. It doesn't matter what color you use. I'm using blue and gold since those are very imperial colors, and this will probably be used in a kingdom such as that. I also add some blood to the gravestone to give it a macabre look. At this point, I want to say it's taken me 3 days just to do 2 signs. This kind of stuff takes a lot of work, and it really does take some serious patience. Miniature building and terrain building isn't for everyone, but once you finish, it does turn out great. Next, we're going to put a very thin layer of paint, which is actually not paint. It's 1 part paint, 10 parts water, which is called a wash. And we're going to put that onto the sign and the gravestone. Now, don't be worried about putting a lot on. After it dries, it will give it a very weathered and textured look, and all of the details that we've been working on will really pop out after this. Next, we're going to do a dry brush. For the dry brush, you just want to get a very dry brush and soak out and rub off all the paint on a paper towel, and then do a nice little weathering. This brings out some of the original color that was lost. And here's the finished product. It looks really great, and I really love adding the blood. The blood added another layer of detail that really made this whole build have a lot of character. I'm also very content with the sign. It has a good detail, and this can be used in basically any outdoor adventure.
Hey,
Before you leave, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, and follow Blood Bear Gaming on Instagram. We post a lot of great exclusive posts, some Dungeon Master tips, and some cool NPC ideas, along with a little reminder whenever we make a video. Thank you.